Hello. If you're watching this video, maybe it's because you've been watching one of my other videos on Java and perhaps you feel a little bit lost. So if I go over some really very basic stuff and just assume that you don't really know anything about coding, and we'll just go over the really basic stuff so that you've got a chance of understanding and writing some code of your own. First of all, you will need to have watched the videos on HTML or have some understanding of HTML and how it works to get going, okay? Because it's not about HTML and it's not about CSS, it's about JavaScript. Now, if we look in here, we've got these buttons here that I've put here. And here, what I want to do is explain what a variable is. So a variable can be thought of as like a bucket, and this bucket can contain different values, and they'll all be stored in there, and then you can retrieve that value from that bucket as well. We do that we do document, and then I need to get it from somewhere. Okay, so we're going to use get by element, element by ID, get element by ID. And it has to go in brackets and in these quotes like that. Well, where are we going to get it from? We're going to get it from here, and that's the input box. So the ID, because it's get element by ID, I'll take a copy of that, put it into this box, and then we're going to do get value. And then after a line of code, we have to put that semicolon in there. This is the line of code for getting that, but at the moment it's not doing anything because it's not being stored anywhere. We need somewhere to store it, so we do that by doing variable, and then we're going to do my var, and then equals that particular value. So we're just setting it to equal a value, just the same as maths. You would have x equals, say, like 27 or 38 or 19. You can do the same thing with code, and instead of using x, we use some variable that's more meaningful. So we have like in this case I'm using it to explain variables, so I just call it my variable. And this value here, it doesn't necessarily have to be a number. It can be a string, or it can be something else, an object maybe. But I won't complicate things too much here. We'll just stick to this so you can see what's going on. Now we need a way to retrieve it. So if we think about a function, right, that's how you declare a function. And then I called it a name, my fun, and then we use those brackets like that, and then we use curly brackets. And in there, what am I going to do? I'm going to do alert, and then I'm going to put this variable into it. How's this piece of code going to know to be connected to this button? Because this piece of code here is getting this value and storing it in this variable. We're going to alert this variable, so a box is going to appear up here. But how does this code know to run? And so if we go to the HTML, and in here we need to have the right kind of linkage, because this is the code. We're going to have on click, and then it was my farm, and then we save that, and it comes up as undefined. So it could be that this here, what we're going to do is put that in there, and then I'm going to take this copy, I'm going to put it in this function. Oops. The variable is being declared up here as a variable, and it's being used in this code here. So if we save that, Now if I put my name in, now it does pick it up. Now if I put something else in there like 56, now it comes up with 56. Value, if we go back to here, because value here has placeholder. See, if I put or has nothing in there, if I put Fred in there, let's see what happens. Yeah, and I'll do this. See, now it shows Fred there as value. So when I click this, it says Fred. What happens if I try to override it? It does work. Okay, so that's where it's coming from. But also it can be empty. And usually that's what we would do if we're going to do something like this. And then you just pop something in there like my name, and then it comes up there and it's got Tony. Right, so those variables are pretty simple. To understand. Yeah. So what's the next thing that we're going to do here? It's like, because we've done functions and we've done function alert. Now, there's different types of a way of displaying it. What if you want to inject it into this piece of code, like down here, where it says nothing to display, nothing yet to display? What if we want to put this variable down here? So let's have a look at the code here. What have we got? We've got the span tag, and that's got an ID display. So if I grab that, let's put it in here. We'll take this out. And we have document, get element by display, and now we put in our HTML. So we have this variable is being stored, it grabs the stuff being stored in here. This is using value, this is using HTML, in a HTML. And sometimes you can use in a HTML to grab the value of something in here. Yeah, if it's like in a table, perhaps, it might have a different value. And here we use HTML, but it's not saying what it wants to display in the HTML, so we have to put my var, which is our variable. Now if I pop my name in there and then click it, now it changes down here to Tony. So that's how you use the variable, and you know, you can just pop anything in here. It works the same way as I showed you, and it now pops here, so you can see that it's been stored in this variable there, and then we use it over here. So it's declared here, stored here, and used over here. Now down here with this where I've got like the note for functions, let's do press, and I don't want to make that uppercase, I want to make that lowercase, and that should be function, not functions. Right, there we go. We can go through the different types of alert. So we've had alert, What about confirm? So what can we put in this box? We've had alert. What about confirm? Are you okay? Now, if I press this button, it now asks up here, are you okay? That didn't have any way of putting anything in. Now, what if we wanted to put yes in? It would make more sense to put it into that bubble, wouldn't it? So how about we use something like prompt? Now save it. Now when I press this button, it asks me, are you okay? But it's looking for some feedback. Let's say, yeah, I'm fine. Zoom out a bit so you can see. But now it doesn't do anything. So what about if we take this line of code here, pop it down there, but we're not going to use my variable. We're going to use my variable 2. And we need to get something from the feedback, don't we? We need to set this variable. It's like I've got this variable here that I want to use, but we need to set it. So what about if we do this? So now this variable, and we can actually declare it as variable there, is now being declared, and it's telling it to store the value from here in here and then use it over here. So let's see what happens. Press me. Are you okay? Yes. And now it appears down here because I just told it to. What if we put something a bit more complicated, like if my var2 equals yes, and we can do or, because that's how we would do or, lowercase. I've got a feeling this might have a bit of difficulty here. Now I'm going to put this code in. And what are we going to put? We're going to put, I think we'll take the whole lot. Should go in there really, shouldn't it? In there equals yes, so it's just repeating it. Now, if I use this plus sign, I can then put a string in there that's great. When we do these ifs, you've got to have double. And I put yes. Yes, that's great. Excellent. Okay, so if I push it again, now let's do this one, this lowercase y. That's great. So it's putting a variable in there and it's recognizing it. So now we've moved on to like if statements. Now with the if statements, you can actually forego, if it's just a short bit of code that goes in these brackets, you can do that. Now let's do it. And it comes up and I put what was one of the other ones? Lowercase, all in lowercase, yes. And it still works. Yeah. As long as it's just like one line of code, then that's okay. But we're gonna have more than one line of code in there. right? Because we want to know what if it says something else, you know? So if it says something else, we could do, if I put this in the right place, else, and I take a copy of this code, I'll pop this in here. I'm sorry to hear that. Now, if I put anything else in there, it's going to do it. So that wouldn't necessarily be a good way of coding it. But it shows us what to do here. So if I put like no, and no, I'm sorry to hear that. You see, so if I put up here, yes, that's great. And then, you know, if I put anything else in there, I'll show you why it's not a very good way to code it. Because if I just put that in, it then comes up, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, so what we could do is make this, so what we could do is make this. Now, all of those things have gone away because it's telling us that there's something wrong with this line. And that's because we need to put another condition in. And we want a condition that's very similar to this. So if we pop that in there, and now it's going to be no, lowercase no, a lowercase n, and a uppercase n. Right, I'm sorry to hear that. It will say. Right, so now if I do no, it comes up. I'm sorry to hear that. No, I'm sorry to hear that. So we don't necessarily have to have this variable in here anymore. We could just take that out, and we could do the same thing in here. So that's great. I'm sorry to hear that. If I now put that in, that comes up. It's put in here. If I do this and then put that in there again. Yeah, it takes it, it stored it in there, and then it's going to put it in there. So what if I comment that out, and now I put this in here, it doesn't recognize it. Yeah. So if I put yes, it does recognize that. That's great. Yeah. And if I put no, it does recognize that. I'm sorry to hear that. So we want that else in there because it now, if I do the press me and I do like it's something that's not going to be in there, now nothing happens. So we need something to deal with that, and we can do else. We need to display it, so we need this code to display it. And what we're going to do is say, please answer the question. So now we've got this piece of code in the else part. If I run it, and I've put the gobbledygook in, it now says, please answer the question. I could have like, you know, yes or no only, couldn't I? Yes or no only. So now what could we do now with those boxes there? we've got those boxes. I think we don't really have to do much there now, do we? We've got this. If I go in there, it says yes. Well, what if we could store the variables somewhere and like count them? Yeah. So if I have up here variable count, let's just have a quick count, and I think we'd have to set it to 0. We do count yes, and do var count no, and I can see what I've done wrong there already. So I pop that there, and we set that to 0 as well. Those two to 0. We'd have to display them somewhere, wouldn't we? We need another space in the HTML, don't we? So if I take the span tag and I put this here to display it, actually, if I just move that for a second and pop that in there, and now put the span tag in there, so I can put in there yes count is, and if we do the same down here for no, and we put no count is, then we're going to change this to yes and this to no. Right, so now they've already come up there. Yes count, nothing to display, nothing to display. We could just take that out, couldn't we, and pop that 0 in there, 0 in there. Now if we go back to the JavaScript, we can display it. So if I put, if I take this code, just copy it, pop that in there, we're going to change that to, this is for the no, isn't it? So if we do that to no, and now we're going to put this variable in there, right? We want the no variable. Now we're going to have to find a way of filling that no variable, aren't we? Yeah. Here, what we can do is we can take that variable and we can do this nice little trick where we just go plus plus, and that will add 1 to that variable. Okay, so let's see if we've done enough. If I go there and I put no, and now it has shown up down here as 1. No count is 1. We need to do the same for yes, don't we? So if I take this and copy it, because in coding we do a lot of copying, but now I want to change it to the yes variable, and this is going to change to yes variable. Now if I do that, that's great. It hasn't shown up for the yes. So what did we do? That's because I've put it in the wrong place, haven't I? Take that out, and I have to put that into the yes part. So that has to go here. And now when I do it, it should work. I press yes, and it's shown up down there as no. Why is it shown up as no? What did I do? Where have I gone wrong there? The yes count, that should go up. Yes count is down there. Right, I know what I did, because I didn't change that, did I? And that's what confused it. So now I put yes, and the yes counter goes up. I press it again and I put no, and the no counter goes up. And I do it again and I put yes, and the yes counter goes up. And I do it again and put yes, and now it's changed up. So you can see how that variable is changing all of the time. So there you understand, we've got variables. You've got a good lesson out of this. You've got variables here, and they can be declared. They can be declared and assigned a value. And then they can be declared inside a function. They can be used in things like if statements, because you've got if statements, else if, and else. These double bars are or. So I'll do some more on the if else statements and the conditions there in another video. And you've got ways of displaying it. So you can display it in the actual HTML itself by using inner HTML. You can collect variables from in here. Let's see what is the variable. So that one there, when I press it, what is the variable? My fun, wasn't it? And it's collecting the variable that goes in there, and it was doing an alert. So if we do an alert, and in there, it's my var, isn't it? Right? Yeah. Yeah. So we can see what's going on there, and nothing's happened there. Right. That's all. That's why I didn't like that. So there's nothing in there this time because I didn't put anything in there. But what if I wanted it to collect these variables down here? Well, it turns out I can do that. So if I want to collect, let's say, the yes ones. We do yes. Let's do both of them. Yeah, and then we have no in there. And so we call this my variable 1, and we do my variable, and yeah, let's do this because then you can see more code. That /n, that my var1, that will make it drop down to the next carriage. So that n is like next carriage. Hopefully that should work. So we've got these two values here. We've assigned the values as we've been doing for this entire lesson. Yeah, by collecting the value that is in there. But we don't want to use value this time, because if I use value, yeah, and I first of all I have to put some values in, right? So yeah, now if I collect it, it says unverified and unverified. Now if I put inner HTML in there, and I do the same for this to save it. Now I have to repopulate that again. So let's do yes. Two yeses. Now, if I collect it, it's collected the values that were in here. We have 2 and we have 0. Now, so not only can you collect values, but you can collect displays that were in the HTML, because there's nothing down there, is there? It's like, because this here, that 0 there for the yeses has changed to a 2 because the HTML has been changed. So it collected what was in the HTML. You know, it doesn't matter what I put in there. If I put in there boo, and hello. Now, if I press what variables do I have, it says boo and hello. You see, you can change things. You can grab the values and then you can use them in whatever way you deem interesting to reiterate the main parts of this lesson. Variables, declare. Variables can be declared and assigned. They can have, like, these integers, numbers. Variables can also be a line of code. We have variables being used in this alert box. We have variables being set as a prompt to gain information from the user. We have variables being used in comparisons for if statements, if else, and the else just gives you the option there of displaying something else. We've been over inner HTML, and we also went over value as well, which value was in one of these up here, wasn't it, or something. So that's quite a bit that there is there to take in. We've also got this or, and we used this plus sign. Now, we have this fancy term called concatenate. So this is concatenating with this and this. And this /n is the thing that's making the values stack on top of one another. So that's it for this lesson. I hope you liked the video. If you did, give it a like. Let me know what you thought about the video and what kind of things you'd like to know about.